That's okay. Me too.
Good. All right. The coral reefs are one of the most diverse ecosystems in the planet, but according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, 30% of them will be dead within the next 10 years. This is due mostly to the rise in ocean temperatures, which leads to the bacterial infections causing the coral reefs to die. So I will be talking to you about how global warming is, or how humans are causing global warming and how global warming is affecting our ecosystem. Oh, right. First, I'd like to talk to you about how exactly humans are impacting global warming. When we hear about global warming on the media, we usually hear the words greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is a natural process in which the Earth absorbs and maintains the heat coming from the sun by way of greenhouse gases. When the energy from the sun comes to the Earth, it usually bounces off and heads back out to space, but the greenhouse gases such as CO2 or methane, nitrous oxide, even water vapor, absorbs and holds the heat in the Earth so we all stay warm and don't freeze to death. But when we burn fossil fuels such as like gasoline or oil, or burn coal and all these things, we're adding more CO2 and other greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, which in turn causes more heat to be absorbed, which makes it hotter. And many people, like we heard in Joe's speech, wonder, well, we've only been here for so long. How do we know exactly how long? Like, how do we not know that there's never been this much greenhouse gases in the atmosphere? There's no way of telling. Well, there actually is. When scientists have found a way in ice core, it's called ice core testing. When they go to places like Antarctica, they can drill into the ice and take out ice that's been frozen for millions and millions of years, and they can find little air bubbles of air that's been trapped from the atmosphere that was around millions of years ago. And so they tested it, and they found that since that time, like compared from our time to the time millions of years ago, carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide have increased 25%, and methane levels have tripled. So that's how we're impacting it, how we're impacting the atmosphere, or global warming, you know what I'm trying to say. And so on. But many people also wonder, like, how is this even, like, global warming, how is that really even a problem? So it gets hotter. Not that big of a deal, and even if it's only going to become a big deal, like in 30 or like for future generations, like a long, long time ago, or in the future. So it's not really going to affect us now. Well, the truth is it actually is affecting us now. We have already seen, like, we hear about like polar bears. We had someone give a speech on that. Polar bears are dying due to global warming. And then there's other species of fish that are dying because ocean levels are going up. But what people don't realize is that it's actually affecting people too. For instance, there's an island off the coast of Taiwan that's actually being submerged by rising ocean levels. News agency down there called the CNA interviewed people, and they would say that they interviewed people, and they were saying that like their favorite beaches that were around just when like grown-ups were kids are gone, and they could even see seawater rising from potholes in the street. The problem's actually gotten so bad that the government there is actually trying to find a way to relocate their entire population to places like Australia or Taiwan. So that's how it's affecting us today. And next I'd like to talk to you about what things we can do to help stop the effects of global warming. Obviously, a lot of people, the hardcore people, would say we all should all stop driving cars, but I live an hour away from the school. I'm not going to stop driving my car to get here. But there are other ways, easier ways for us to help. For one thing, carpooling and public transportation would cut down on how much we drive, we drive individual cars, which would decrease the amount of levels of greenhouse gases we're sending to the atmosphere. And if we want to, hybrid cars are a great way to reduce CO2 levels. According to NOVA, driving a hybrid car for 100,000 miles would barely fill a teacup with pollutants. They're talking like the little British teacups, not the big ones we have here, so that's not a lot. And there are even simpler ways than that, like when you have electronic appliances plugged into a wall, like a cell phone charger. If you unplug that when you're not using it, that'll reduce like electrical leakage. When you have it plugged in, it's still using electricity. And then when it's hot outside, instead of like drying your clothes in a dryer, just hanging on a clothesline, simple things like that will help lower the levels at all, and lower the levels a lot. And it saves money, so that's always a plus. So I hope I persuaded you I hope I helped you understand how global warming, how we affects global warming, or cause global warming, and how it's affecting us right now. And hope I persuade you to try and be more environmentally friendly. Thank you.
So weird. It was like wedding music started going on, and I was like,
whenever you had a transition, my next point, done time.
That's so distracting. Why is that so loud? Like, yeah, because you go over there and say something, like you turn it down, we're doing speeches or something.
I didn't teach you that was record.
Yeah, hang on a second.
Nobody laughed. I'll go take.
All right, hang on 1 second. We'll take care of that. We'll do something. Alexandra, what did you think?
I think at the beginning you were a little bit nervous, but you kind of forgot the things. You kind of like memorized the speech, but after the second after the speech, you begin like you feel more comfortable with what you were talking about. I like that you use a lot of facts and examples, and I like the conclusion that you did, like the environment.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that at the beginning that you looked a little uncomfortable and certainly on the spotlight, but during the presentation you seemed to get a little bit more into what you were doing and relax a little bit. The subject is clear. I think you could develop the argument about global warming a little bit more. You've got a couple of good references, but the source citations need to be stronger for instance, on the ice cores or in a couple of other spots. You've got a couple of examples that you use to illustrate the point, and there's I'm thinking about the disappearing island, for instance, and I thought that was effective. I like the language that you used when you talked about the teacup size thing, you know, and I'm not talking about a big cup, I'm talking about those little English teacups. I thought that was kind of funny and makes it a little bit more personable. You need some evidence that shows that the changes that you're talking about would be significant enough to have an impact on this. I'm not sure that I'm convinced that if we made all the changes you talked about that it would be able to, for instance, save this island. Whether or not they'd all have to move anyway, you know, whether or not I leave my battery charger plugged in or whatever solution you're proposing. So the presentation's okay. You've got the good basics. I think you need a stronger organization in the speech too. I'm sorry.